Put it right there. What is going on, guys? We are back. And we are doing a whole new course, which is one of the most important courses that we're going to be doing. If you haven't noticed, I switched the music up a little bit. Depends, we'll probably go back. Who knows? But I feel like it'd be good to have like a little bit of a change. But yeah. I'm a bit excited to see everyone else be able to. Oh my god, I've been staring at screens all day. Okay. I think we'll wait a second to see if we have a few more people that kind of tune in. But yeah, if any of you guys remember, we just did, we finished up a very, very long video the last time. It was the personal portfolio that we did. We laid out kind of like the groundwork, did some animations for that. I mean, just played around with it a bit. Not really like a huge like an overwhelming kind of thing. We mostly just experimented that time. But yeah, once we start getting into JavaScript, we'll be able to do a lot more functionalities, and you know, we'll actually be learning an actual programming language. So, I see a few people were able to make it. That's pretty good. Glad to see you guys. So, we'll probably start here in just a little bit. I got off work a couple hours ago. Or, a little bit over than that, but I haven't changed out of my clothes for the day, which I'll probably do after. But I'm definitely excited to be able to get started with, you know, this course. So this course, depending on how each section goes, like right now we're going to be starting off with basic JavaScripting. So, you know, we'll be working out, you know, all the fundamental, foundational functions of the program, of the language. And then, you know, we'll go into ES6. We have regular expressions, debugging, basic data structures, basic algorithm scripting, object-oriented programming, functional programming, intermediate algorithm scripting, and then we have JavaScript algorithms and data structure projects. And those are the ones that's going to take a decent amount of time to fully complete. But before we get to that, like when we start doing the actual like programming challenges, you know, that's gonna definitely be a combined effort to be able to do, because it's not gonna be that easy. So getting through some of these challenges would be good to like have like a group be able to do it. I know the projects you can't copy, you know, from off of each other, you know, exact things, but you know, make it like similar. But yeah, so we'll have about there for the first basic JavaScript section. There's 113 steps. Now, all these steps may not be that long, but you know, depending on how long we have to explain everything and how everything goes, I'm gonna try to digest it in small pieces. You know, if we can handle the 113, that's fine. But if there's like a ton of information that's being thrown, and you know, we use up 2 hours already of just, you know, like intense, like just intense like concepts and understanding, and then we can space this out into 2 separate parts. But I think, honestly, I think this should be okay. It shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's move over here, or we'll be over there for you guys. So let's switch it up. Okay, so far we have this right here. This is what we're going to be starting, is the basic JavaScript, starting this course. So we'll go here, expand the courses, and the first thing we're going to start on is comment your JavaScript code. So this is going to be your official first lines of code. So in order to make comments in HTML, when we did it, we put the, you know, left angle bracket, the exclamation mark, 2 dashes, and then you have, you know, hey, this is a comment. And then you'd have the 2 dashes in that. Well, in JavaScript, there are 2 different ones. So you have 1-line comments that use two slashes forward. So you can say, hey, this is a 1-line comment. Well, then when you get onto another one, see, it goes back to regular. And this is what the output looks like at the bottom. So that's 1 line. Now, if you want to make the multi-lined, if you remember in CSS, you got to put the /, then you put the asterisk, and then you say this is a, and then you can go down to the next one, and then you can say multi-line. There we go. Multi-line comment. And then, and it's going to keep on going multiple lines until you take it out. So you got to end it. And that's where it goes. See? The test of the output will go here. We'll run it. There you go. We'll go to the next one. Okay. So that's single line, and that's multi-line comments. So now we're dealing with variables. As you know, in not HTML, in CSS, I'm mixing those two right now. It shouldn't be. But in CSS, they had, we did the variables, you know, with the var and the dashes and that sort of stuff. Well, in JavaScript, you have different kinds of data types for these variables, that what they hold. So you have things that are unidentified, you have null, you have boolean, string, a symbol, a big integer, a number, an object. There you go. Now, for example, for numbers, you're specifically declaring a number, which would be 12. Strings are actual, like, you know, such as you can see, like quotes, like a dog, or 12, or 1, like you can see up here, 1, 2, 3 cats. So this is basically like a sentence. It's not a number. It's just a sentence. So you have to be very careful when you have those and you're declaring those. So we'll read this. Variables allow computers to store and manipulate data in a dynamic fashion. They do this by using a label to point to the data rather than using the data itself. So basically storing things in containers. So we'll tell JavaScript to declare a variable by putting the keyword var in front of it. So as you can see right here, var and then our name. Create a variable named our name in JavaScript. We end statements with semicolons. So variable names can be made up of numbers, letters, and like a money symbol or an underscore, but may not contain spaces or start with a number. So once you make a space, it declares that's the end of that variable. So use the var keyword to create variable name my name. So you'll notice that that you won't see var too often in most modern JavaScript. It's usually either a let or a const. Those are really the only two. A constant is a variable that just never changes. It's always going to be the same, like it can't be manipulated. And a let can be manipulated, and you can change it however many times you want, but it sticks to the scope that it is declared in. So if it's inside like a function, it's going to stay in that function, but anything outside that function is not going to have an impact on it. So vars are a lot more volatile and a lot more accessible. So just remember that. We'll probably learn that later on, maybe in ES6, but that's a good thing to know, just as a heads up. So we made the var my name, so this is the name, and it's a variable. Now a var could take so a var, a let, a const can take anything. It can be any data type that you want it to be. And the browser will interpret it, whatever you put in there. And it'll say, hey, I think this is a string. I'm going to treat this as a string. This is a number. This is like declared like a number. I'm going to make it a number. So you'll see that. So got 2%. So there's the one line comment. We got a variable. And now we have another one line, and it says only change below this line. So we'll get that set up underneath. So in JavaScript, you can store a variable and a value in a variable. So just like in CSS, how we stored, the color inside of that like background color that we did in the root variable. Like how we had that variable that was called like dash red background color, and then you gave it a value of red. It's kind of the same thing. You're storing, you're taking this name and you're storing this value inside of it. So you can create this right here. So you've initiated the variable right here, but now I want to give that a, and then on here it wants to give the variable a value of 7. So now inside that a is the value of 7. So if I were to print this out to the console, it would just print 7. Like if I were to print a out, it would print 7. So see? And it completed. So after a value is assigned to a variable using the assignment operator, you can assign the value of that variable to another variable using the assignment operator. So what you can do is, so see, what it's saying is the variable a, right, is declared, and then a is going to equal 7. Well, then we're going to have a b, right? We're going to declare variable b, and now it's saying, okay, I want variable b to have the exact same value as a at all times. So all you would have to do is literally say b, and then assigning it the value of a. See? And now both of these are 7. So a 7 and now b is 7. See, it's that easy. So now we have, it's called initialize a variable to any initial value in the same line as it's declared. So now, instead of having to do it on separate lines, we can initialize it on the actual line itself. So we could do var and then define a with a value of 9. There you go. See? Now, so we can do this. We can declare the variable and then initialize it at any point, but we can also do it at the very beginning as well. So see, now you have var a equals 9, and that's what it wants us to do. So there. Pretty easy stuff. So we declared a variable var equals my name, but you can also declare a string variable like this. So we can make like an actual string value. So your name, like right here where it says your name as a string, your name is called a string literal. A string literal, or a string, is a series of 0 or more characters enclosed in a single or double quotes. So it's just like a line of characters. So not numbers or anything like that. It's a string of characters. While like a char, right, is, or a character is like one unit of well, I'm sure everyone knows what a character is. It's like it's interpreted as like a sentence, or like in quotes or whatnot. It's like a single, like it's, I guess it's more like, it's easy to know like characters, but it's harder to describe. But I think everyone gets the idea. Anyway, a character's like, this is one character right there. Well, this is a series of characters inside these quotes. So first create two, you'll understand. So first create two string variables. So we're gonna make a var and then my first name, and then make a var my last name, right? And then assign the values to the first and last name respectively. So okay, so we can do John Doe. See? That's characters. So there you go. So now we have one that is undefined. When variables are declared, they have initial value. Are declared, they have an initial value of undefined. Like, see right here. Like, if there's nothing on here, right? And we would just say, okay, I want this to display A. Like, forget this is here. We just want to display A. It'll come back with undefined because there's nothing assigned to it. Which, if you do a mathematical operation on an undefined variable that's not there, your result will be called, it'll just come back with a nan, or a not a number. So like if you do like C equals C, so C, let's say C is not declared, so C equals C plus C, it's gonna come back with nan because it's not a number. Or you do this, like C equals C plus B, it'll come back with nan. So if you concatenate with an undefined variable, you get a string of undefined. Yeah, if you concatenate. So initialize the three variables A, B, and C with 5, 10, and I am A. So we'll do 5, so this is a number, 10, And then this will be I am a... Okay. So essentially it's just going to say A equals A plus 1. So this would be 5 plus 1 is 6. So A is going to now be assigned the number 6. B, it'll be B plus, or it'll be 10 plus 5, which would be 15. So B will now have the value of 15. Well, now C equals C plus string. So now C is I am a and space string. So yeah. So it will concatenate. So this plus this will actually make a full string. So it'll say I am a string. So see. But if we didn't do this, it would be undefined because we have no idea what C is. So this would be undefined. And it would be not a number if we try to do a mathematical equation. Alright. Okay, so in JavaScript, all variables and function names are case sensitive. This means that capitalization matters. My var is not the same as my var, nor my var. It is possible to have multiple distinct variables with the same name, but different casing. So yeah, if you do camel case, or you do this weird, mixture of, lowercase and uppercase letters, and this of, just uppercasing each letter, each new word, these will all be different. So that's almost the same as putting like this is different, this is different, and this is different. So even though they all say the same thing, each one of these is its own separate variable. So that whenever you try to call like a variable, it's going to, it's not going to know, may not give you the result you're wanting. So you'll always have to pay attention to your uppercase and lowercase. So write variable names in JavaScript in camel case. In camel case, multi-word variable names have the first word in lowercase and the first letter of each sequential word is capitalized. So this right here, where is it? This right here. This is proper camel case right here. So I'm sure it's going to want to fix these. Modify the existing declarations assignments so their names use camel case. So let's redo this. So studly cap var. So see, we lowercased and then capitalize each sequential word. So title, case over. I feel like retyping all that out. I mean, you guys can if you want to, but I'm not gonna bother. So here we go, and we'll take this over here. So now all these are properly assigned. So whenever you're assigning those variables, you have to make sure that they are all matching. And I mean, you can go ahead and what the heck? Oh, yeah. So you could just go ahead and do everything like all variables. I would definitely camel case. So that way you know the exact way that you're writing them. So now, one of the biggest problems with declaring variables with the var keyword is that you can easily overwrite variable declarations, right? In the code above, the camper variable is declared as James, and then is overwritten by David. See? The console then displays this string David. In a small application, you might not run into this type of problem, but as your code base becomes larger, you might accidentally overwrite a variable that you did not intend to. Because this behavior does not throw an error, searching for and fixing bugs becomes more difficult. A keyword called let was introduced in ES6. Okay, so there we go. Came through for ES6, a major update to JavaScript to solve this potential issue with the var keyword. So you'll learn about other ES6 features and later challenges. If you replace var with let in the code above, it results in an error. The error can be seen in your browser code. So unlike var, when you use let, a variable with the same name can only be declared once. So that it basically throws an error and says, hey, these are declared at the same time, what are you doing? So unlike that way, you only have one variable with the same name, and you're not, duplicating it. So unlike var, when you use let variable name. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna update these and use the let instead. So there you go. So remember, let and const. This next one, we're using const. So basically, the keyword let is not the only way to declare variables. Now, in CS6, they introduced const. Has all the awesome features that let has, with the added bonus that variables declared using const are read-only. They cannot be overwritten. So they are a constant value, which means that once a variable is assigned with const, it cannot be reassigned. So if you tried to redo it, it'll just say, nope, you can't do it. So instead here, so it wants us to change the code so that all variables are declared using let or const. Use let when you want the variable to change, and const when you want the variable to remain constant. Also rename the variables declared with const to confirm the common practice. Do not change the strings assigned to the variables. So if we are wanting fact to change, we are going to give that a let. But we want FreeCodeCamp to stay the same. So let's give this one a const. See? Now, FreeCodeCamp is awesome. Test completed. What? You should change FCC to all uppercase. Okay. So, here, it is common for developers to use uppercase variable identifiers for immutable values and lowercase or camel case for mutable values, objects, and arrays. You learn about objects, arrays, and immutable and mutable values in later challenges. Also in later challenges, you'll see examples of uppercase, lowercase, or camel case variable identifiers. So, alright, so if your consts that are immutable, that are going to right. So I guess in order to avoid, so what it's saying is, in order to avoid mistaking, so in order for mistaking, like, hey, this isn't a constant or this is a constant, you can declare it all in uppercase. So that's what it's saying. So all const words you can declare in uppercase. That way it tells anyone, like, hey, this can't be changed. So that's good. All right, so what else do we have? You should change FCC to all duh. So we have that. Should not be changed. Okay, let's see what it does. Okay, we're good now. And now the result is FreeCodeCamp is awesome. Okay. Number is a data type in JavaScript which represents numerical data. Now let's try to add two numbers using JavaScript. JavaScript uses the plus symbol as an additional operator when placed between two numbers. So change the 0 so that the sum will equal 20. Alright, so we want this to equal 20. So sum, so const sum, so this is not going to change, is going to be assigned 10 plus 10. So the answer obviously will be 20. So we'll go ahead and run that. There you go. So once it's 20, if something ever tried to reassign it a different value or whatnot, it's going to just throw an error. So just remember that. But if it's a const, wouldn't it be sum? Oh. Because it's doing a check specifically for lowercase. So, mutable or immutable? We'll learn more about it. We can also subtract one number from another. Okay. So obviously the difference right here, 45 minus 0, would just be 45. So instead, we can subtract it. Would have the value 6, so the difference is 12. So 33. There we go. Alright, so 45 minus 33 is 12. So you get 12. That variable is now 12. Alright, we can also multiply one number by another. Yep. So we don't use the x. Now remember that, because x is interpreted as a character. That's not actually going to do anything. What you would want to do is, you would want to use this symbol right here. This, the asterisk. So 8 times 0 would be 0. So now, we want it to be 80. So 10. So const, this product is going to be 80 because it's 8 times 10. And that will equal this, right? So there you go. Your product is now 80. And the next one will be division. So we don't use if your keyboard could somehow have a division symbol. I don't think you'd be using symbols or anything like that, like just Unicode. But you're going to use a /. So the / symbol stands for division. So we're going to go ahead and divide. So 6 divided by 0 is right here. So the quotient is 2. Equal to 2. So yeah. There we go. So minor quick math. But there we go. See, the const, my var, is going to equal this number divided by 2. So that is going to equal 2. That my variable is going to equal 2. So if you ever wanted to make a project that wanted to do your homework for you, you could put it in here and then you can get your answer. But obviously you have to show your work and all that kind of stuff. So good luck. You can easily increment or add one to a variable with the double plus operator. So I plus plus. I is the equivalent of I equals I plus 1. So what you're going to do is I is going to be assigned I plus 1. So if if this is equal to 1, right, it's going to be 1 plus 1, and then I is going to equal 2. So this essentially is just telling I, okay, we're just going to add one more. So we're going to increment it, and it's going to equal out to 2. either way. Eliminating the need for the equal sign, so you won't even need the equal sign. So change the code to use ++ operator on my var. So instead of using this, instead of adding +1, you would just add ++. See? Done. It just brings it up by 1 anyway. Now, if you want to decrement, so bringing this from 11 to 10, instead of doing 2 pluses, that's right, we use two dashes, 2 minus signs, and that'll deduct 1. So this will become 10. Okay. We can store decimal numbers and variables too. So decimal numbers are sometimes returned as floating point numbers. So, or instead of floating point numbers, in JavaScript we declare them as floats. So create a variable myDecimal right here, right? And give it a decimal value with a fraction part 5.7. So thing is, right, they are floats. This would be a float. So create a variable myDecimal. Oh, okay. Duh. Variable identity gives it a decimal value. So const. I was trying to figure out what it was doing, and then my brain finally decided to click. So decimal, right? And then we're gonna give it 6.9. Anyway, this is a float value. So we'll run that test, and then we're good. So we'll go to the next one. In JavaScript, you can also perform calculations with decimal numbers, just like whole numbers. So use multiply 2 decimals together to get the product. So this can times this. So 2.0 can times 0.0. Well, instead of, doing 0.0, we're going to do 5.0. And the product should equal 5.0. Oh, hold on. So, are we changing? Oh, change the zip. Okay. So, there we go. I had to change it up. But yeah, I mean, it multiplies it. I had to actually sit there and see where it was going with that. It's just like, okay, I'm going to change that to 5. But now I'm seeing, oh, it has to equal 5. Dumb. So you can also do division. So should equal 2.2. So divided. Change 0, 0, so the quotient will equal 2.2. No. Aha! That would make sense, wouldn't it? Oh. There you go. Well, there you go. Basic math. Okay, so it's arithmetic. Alright, so the remainder operator percent gives the remainder of the division of two numbers. So this is just the leftovers. So if we had, let's say 5 divided by 2, the remainder would obviously be 1. So you'd have a remainder of 1. So In mathematics, the number can be checked by even or odd by checking the remainder of the division of the number by 2. So, you know, if 17 with a remainder of 2 equals 1, it's odd. If it has a remainder of 0, then it's even. Remember that. So when we start, like, whenever we have to print out stuff to the screen that's, you know, every second or every third, this will be a condition that would check for, like, okay, is the remainder equal of 2? Is it going to be odd, or is it going to be even? If it ends with a 0, like it goes into there nice and smooth, that means it's even, and you know it'll go by 2s. You know, it can go by 2s, 4s, whatever number you put there. But if it's odd, it'll go by, you know, like if it's even, it'll push out. But if it's not, then it'll push something else. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to do const remainder equal to 11 divided by 3, so 11. So we want to 3. So 11 divided by 3 right here, and then it's going to have the remainder of 2 because it's going to be 9, and then it can't go into 11, so the remainder of that is 10, 11, 2. So run the tests. There you go. In programming, it's common to use assignments to modify the contents of a variable. So remember that everything to the right of the equal sign is evaluated first. So we could say var equals var plus 5. So add var, to add 5 to var, since it's such a common pattern, there are operators which do both a mathematical operation and assignment to one step. One such operator is the plus equal. So instead of having to do this a equals a plus 12, we already know we want to take the value of a and add it to this anyway. So instead of having to write the a plus, we're going to change this and we're just going to add a plus before it. So it's basically saying a equals a plus 12, but instead of having to write it out like this, you can shorthand it by doing the plus equals. So b plus equals 9, so we don't even need this. C plus equals 7, because we want c, the value of c plus 7. So see, look at that, right there. So we're going to be adding this, you know, the value of this a is 3 right now. So 3 plus 12, 15. So a becomes 15 now, and you know, etc. So that's a good shorthand, good thing to learn. A lot of people are going to use that. They're rarely going to just write out, you know, the whole thing itself when they could just easily declare it that way. Okay, so could do the same thing. It works the same way with the it works the same way with all of these. So subtraction. So we take this out, we, you know, subtract it. Take this, subtract it. There. So the value of c, subtract 1 from c. So it's going to be, the new value of c is going to be 2. Right here. Oh. Gosh, man. 6. So the b value, 9. So if we would 9 minus 15, b minus 15, that would be negative 6 though. Right. Yeah, okay. So I was right. I didn't know if it was looking for a positive. I was like, yeah. So anyway, that's going to equal negative 6. And this is going to equal 2 because we're subtracting 6. Negative 6 right here because 9 minus 15 is negative 6. and A, which is 11 minus 6 would be 5. Run that. Okay. Now, I will say this. Programmers, you know, we may be nerdy, but you don't have to be extremely well versed with math. Believe it or not, you really don't. There is math involved, but usually, you know, there are formulas and you can plug stuff into here, and usually it distributes the answers and that sort out. So we are big algorithm makers, big formula makers, and to get our results. Which eventually, I mean, you start being good at math. Just because you're trying so hard to find that answer, you ended up mistakenly becoming very well versed in what you're looking for. Instead of this, so we do the multiply. So this is a fairly easy section because we already went through what all these do, and you know, it's the same concept. You're multiplying instead of adding or subtracting. You're just multiplying the numbers. So see, A 5 times 5, 25. So the new value of A is 25 when you do that. So, I mean, it's that easy, except for this one. What did I delete on that? 3. Gosh darn it. Okay. I was sitting there, it was like, B is gonna times B. That's gonna not help me. It's not gonna result in a number. So there you go. There you go, 20%. So the now we go by divided. Divide by operator. So remember / for all these. There you go. Division, same thing. Okay, so now when you're defining a string, you must start and end with a single or double quote. What happens when you need a literal quote, like a double quote or single quote inside of your string? In JavaScript, you can escape a quote from considering it as an end of string quote by placing a backslash. So it's saying, okay, I want to put this, as you can see right here, this one right here, I want to put this and this right here are a string, see? But if I put this right here without using this escape quote, it's going to end this whole sentence right here, and then this is going to just be, you know, not included, and then it's going to use this. And we do not want that. It's going to just be a mess. So we use this escape character, and now it's going to have Alan said, and then with a quote, Peter is learning JavaScript with end quote, because you're putting this escape in here, and this will be the official end, and this will be the start. So, and it'll say, Alan said, quote, Peter is learning JavaScript. So using these escape characters comes in real handy when you want to make actual quotes inside your script. So, so we're going to change this line. So if you were to print it in the console, you would see, okay, so it wants us to print, I am a, now it wants double quoted. So in order to do that, backslash, add this, double quoted, and then we're going to put another backslash because I'm not ready to end this sentence. I am a double quoted string inside. Oh, need to make another double quote. So we're going to escape that. Double quotes. And now, I'm still not done. I'm going to escape this. I'm going to put a period at the end. And then I'm going to officially end the sentence. So see, we basically took these right here those backspaces are basically saying, hey, I'm not done, but I'm going to make these an actual quote inside of what I want to say. So see, that's what we're writing right here. Probably can't see most of my code, can you? Because, you know, I'm kind of in the way. But yeah, just believe me, that's what it says. My string is equal to I am a double quote string inside double quotes. You can kind of see this whole tail end right here. But that's what it looks like. So remember this, the escape characters, which is backslash. So I'll run that, and it's good. So now, so string values in JavaScript may be written with single or double quotes as long as you start and end with the same type of quote. Unlike some other programming languages, single and double quotes work the same in JavaScript. So no matter what, this, if you started with a double quote and end with a double quote, it's going to be. If you start with a single quote and end with a single quote, it's the same exact thing. The reason why you might want to use type of quote over the others if you want to use both in the string. This might happen if you want to save a conversation in a string and have the conversation in quotes. Another use for it would be saving the A tag with various attributes and quotes all within a string. However, this becomes a problem if you need to use the outermost quotes within it. Remember, a string has the same kind of quote at the beginning and end. So you want it to start with this and you want it to end right here. And then you want to have, you know, your actual quotes the same. But if you have the same quote somewhere in the middle, the string will stop early and throw an error. So, here, so this right here, Jake says, Finn, hey, let's go on an adventure. Now see, from here to here, this is the beginning of the quote. So we don't need to actually make escape characters for this one right here or this one right here. However, see, if you use two different ones, you don't have to keep using those escape characters. However, let's has that, you know, apostrophe, and that makes this quote right here at the end, and this makes it end early right here because it's the same the same type of quote as the beginning. So it thinks it's going to end right here. So we have to put an escape right here for the apostrophe, so that way it says, hey, I'm not done here, we're going to continue. So the backslash should not be confused with the forward slash. They do not do the same thing. As we know, one's division, one's an escape character. Change the provided string to a string with single quotes at the beginning and end and no escape characters. So this is what I'm saying. So we're going to go here. We're going to do it with a single quote. End it with a single quote. So it should say from right here to here. So we don't need this because that's gonna the backslash is taking out is the escape characters. Because since we just switched this to a single quote, we can take out the backslash for here because this right here is going to be its own quote. We can take out the backslash here and the back we can in the escape character here, and then see that this is okay because we have the single right here and the single at the end. So this whole entire thing right here is a string. This whole entire thing is a string. This anchor tag is a string, and the quotes right here and the quotes right here are okay. So you can do it that way without having to put escape characters. So we did it. So from here to here, this is all one line because we have the single. And then from here to here, there's our double for the quote. And here to here, that's another double for the quote. So we don't have to have any escape characters here. And remember, this is okay because that's not it's not a backslash. So it doesn't mean it doesn't mean the same thing. And since this isn't a mathematical operator, the forward slash is not applied for division. It's a character. Like, this is a string, so this is just a character. It's not an actual number. So, this is fine. If you notice, this is the HTML we used. That we used in the previous lessons. So now we're good. Going to the next one. So quotes are not the only characters that can be escaped in the string. There are two reasons to use escape characters. To allow you to use characters you may not otherwise be able to type out, such as a new line, or to allow you to represent multiple quotes in a string without JavaScript misinterpreting what you mean. So this is a single quote right here, double quote. This is a backslash. So it's saying, hey, if we want a backslash in our string, if you put a backslash, obviously it's going to interpret it as an escape character. So you have to put a double backslash. If you want to bring this line on a new line, it would be a backslash n. If you want a tab, it'd be backslash t, carriage return, backslash r, word boundary b, form feed, backslash f. So the backslash does a lot of different things than just escape. Must be escaped in order to display as a backslash. Right, that's what I just said. Assign the following 3 lines of text into the single variable myString using escape sequences. So we want to use, okay, so first line, see, now we want to start a new line. So remember, we put the backslash n and we want to go to a new line. Well, we also want to put a tab, if you can see. So /t, we're going to tab it, and then we also want to add a backslash in front of this second line. So we can't just put a backslash, because if we do that, it escapes the whole thing. So we got to put another backslash. So see, so this becomes a backslash, and then we put second line, and then we do another new line, and this will be the third line. So see? Alright, so what have we got going here? Should not contain any spaces. So is this all going to be just on the same line? Okay. So nothing's going to have... Okay, so this will all just be, I guess, one thing. Oh, yeah, because if you do... Okay. Yeah, because if you... I see now. Because if you put any spaces in here, it's going to mistake it... It's going to mistake it as, oh, you put an actual space there, and it's going to be a literal string. So wherever you put those spaces, it's just going to make spaces to compensate. So if you put everything together, it should look kind of like that. Should contain the string's first line, second line, and third line. Fist first. Okay, followed by the new line character. Okay, so we did that. There we go. So we did it all right. So we accidentally put fist instead of first, and we put spaces in there when we really shouldn't have, because it's going to just have random spaces all throughout it if we just kept it that way. I know it's a lot to kind of take in, but that backslash is going to be used for a lot of good things. Like, hey, I want to put this amount of data, or I want to put this, I want to print this variable. to the user, but I don't want it being on the same line. So we would use a \n, add that, and then we'd put another \n and just, iteratively go down and print out, something on each new line instead of it all being, jumbled on the same line. So that's kind of a good example. So in JavaScript, we use the plus operator. The add symbol is used with a string value and is called a concatenation operator. You can build a new string out of other strings by concatenating them together. So, for example, my name is Alan. This is one string. I want to add it to the string I concatenate. Well, how do I do that? We just add the plus operator. So we also got to watch out for spaces, because remember, when you print those out, it's going to literally take it as, okay, if you put my name is Alan, you don't put a space there, and then you don't put a space here, it's going to push those up against each other literally. So there won't be a space in between. That's why there's an I and there's a little space right there. Right there. So you gotta just remember, you want to make it look exactly the way that you want it to come out. So the string I come first, I come second. See right here, there is a space here, but there's not a space right here. So we're only making one space in between those, which is why it comes out this way. If you were to put another space right here, it would be double spaced, and you don't want that. So build my string from the strings. So this is the start. All right, now we end it here, and then we concatenate it because we want to add, and then we also want a space there to space this out. This is the end, and then add that, and then we want to make sure there's a space in between there so it comes out correct. So when you put your value out or your sentence, you want to make sure it's exactly the way you want it. So we submit, go to the next one. We could also, so remember how we were, before. So instead of using the plus operator, we could do the shorthand, and it does the same thing. Well, this one does the same thing. So let's say I want this string. Build my string over several lines by concatenating these two strings. So let's see. So this is the first sentence. All right, so see, now I'm gonna put a space right here, right? Because I want to add something. If I add something onto this, I want to make sure there's a space, and I am. I'm going to take my string and I'm going to add, right, equals, right? I'm going to just assign it. I'm going to add, so this one's going to say this is the second sentence. So see? And we end it. So we are adding this onto here. Now mind you, remember I put that space already right here, so I don't have to put one at the beginning of this. So it's going to come out literally, this is the first sentence, period, with a space. This is the second sentence. So we are concatenating it, but we're not having to declare two separate variables. We're not having to put two separate things in the string. You can literally just say, hey, I want to add more onto this. And so you could take that value and you can just add on to it, wherever you want. Sometimes you need to build a string by using the concat operator. You can insert one or more variables into a string you're building. So, So remember, my name, John Doe. John Dope. Okay, you know what? Let's keep that. My name to a string equal to the name, and then let's just say my name is, and then we'll put a space. Now I want to add this sentence in there, but it's assigned to this variable. So this is how you add variables into your strings. So we'll concatenate this, add my name, and then we add another plus because we're tying these two together, right? And then since there's a space right here, right? So it's gonna have a space, puts my name, and then we're gonna add this one, right? We're gonna put another quote here, space, because if we don't put that space there, it's gonna be bumped up together, and we're gonna say, and I am well. So what it's gonna say is, my name is John Dope, and I am well. But see, you can put your variable inside here. So we'll run the test, and we're good. The more we actually start doing things, the more you're gonna actually be like, oh, okay, and you'll have epiphanies. Or, you know, you'd be working on something for hours, and then like something happens, and you're like, really? It happens way more than you think. And you can build a string over multiple lines out of string literals. We can also append variables to a string using the plus equal operator. So, say we have this const, and we have this let, and we want to merge them together, right? So, we're going to add, so set some objective to a string of at least 3 characters. Okay, so, to a string of at least 3 characters. So the learning to code is fun with a happy face. There you go. Now we want to add this, right? We want to add the my string, and now concatenate, because we want to add this onto this right here, and we will do some adjective. See? And it does the same thing. It'll say, learning to code is fun, with a smiley face. So we can do it that way too. Okay. So if you, let's say you were making a game, right? And like you wanted the player to declare, you know, their name and stuff, right? And say like, hey, this is my name. Well, in the dialogue of every, like whenever you want, you know, NPCs, non-playable characters, to say that player's name, you know, in actual sentences, that's how you would do it. And that's how you concatenate it. So, hopefully you understand that more. So, you can find the length of a string value by writing .length after the string variable or the string literal. Okay. So, the value... So, you can do console.log AlanPeter.length. The value 10 would be displayed in the console because we're just getting the length of this. Note that the space character between Alan and Peter is also counted. So each one of these, no matter what it is, the space and everything is considered a character. So for example, if we create a variable const first name, Ada, we have to find out how long Ada is by typing, you know, first name dot length property. So so use the dot length property to set the last name last name length to the number of characters in last name. So we want this right here. It's going to start at 0. And we want it to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We want it to be 8. We are changing this to 8. So we are going to literally reassign this. So now we're not doing a plus equals because we're not doing, you know, last name length. It'd be the same thing as 0 plus, you know, this. We want it to be exactly this. There's no point. Besides, it's a 0 anyway. So dot length. So now this is going to be assigned to this, and it's going to be 8. So last name length is now going to be the number 8 because that's how long that last name was. Okay. So bracket notation is a way to get a character at a specific index within a string. So if let's say, right here, const first letter equals first name 0. So first name 0, it would be C, right? So now you have to know this. It doesn't start at 1. Positions in JavaScript and most coding languages don't start at just 1. It starts at 0. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you do this, so use bracket notation to find the first character of the last name. So we're going to put a bracket at the end here, right? And we want the first character, the L. So we would put 0, right? Now the first letter of the last name, this right here is going to become an L because we are taking that and we are assigning it L because we're using this bracket notation. If we want to say, you know, what I want the second L, so then we would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we would use the fourth, and then it becomes the lowercase l. Well, we want the first L, which was B0. So if we were to go through, like, if we were to use, like, let's say a loop, and we wanted to go through this whole entire thing and says, hey, I need the first lowercase l that you find. So it would basically do this, it would search it, and then it would use something like this to bring out that L. So there we go. So the first one is L right here. Alright, so in JavaScript, string values are immutable, which means that they cannot be altered once created. So, for example, the following code will produce an error because the letter B in the string Bob cannot be changed to the letter J. So see, note that this is not... So if you declared Bob right here, and you're saying, okay, I want to change my string at 0, which would be the B, and make that J, it's going to come with an error. Note that this doesn't mean that string cannot be reassigned. The only way to change my string would be to assign it with a new value. So you can't do it just, you know, individually. You'd have to say, okay, I'm going to actually make this job. Like, I have to actually reassign it and tell it, okay, this is job. I can't just go here and just say, hey, change this to J for me. You can't do that. There are other ways that you can do this, but this one right here is not the way to do it. So correct the assignment here. So you can't do this. My string, we're going to get rid of this, and we actually have to make it say hello world. There. See? Because it doesn't work that way. So next, you can also use bracket notation to get the character at other positions within the string. Remember that characters. So remember when I said like the fourth character was that little L? That's basically what it's saying. It goes by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however. So let's try to get the third letter of last name. So we're going to go to last name, right? And we want the third letter of it. So 0, 1, 2. So we're going to take our bracket notation and we're going to put 2 in there. And now the third letter of the last name is going to be V. Because we're assigning it this const third letter of last name equal to last name with the position of 2, which is the V. Remember, 0, 1, 2. That's how we got there. Because it all starts at 0, not 1. Alright, submit. So in order to get the last letter of a string, you can subtract 1 from the letter's length. So for example, so instead of having to go through there and say, okay, I have to count all of these characters to just get to the last bit, you don't want to do that. So in order to do that, we are going to cheat. So instead, we're going to take the last letter of the last name, we're going to assign it the bracket notation. We're going to get last name, right? Last name, but we're going to get the length. So we're going to get the whole length of it. And I want the last one. So we're going to subtract 1. So see, remember, this is going to, since this is in the bracket notations, this length is a number, and then we're subtracting it by 1. Right? So that is going to get us the last number here. And then it's going to print out. So it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9. No. It's 8. I overcounted. It's 8. So it should be E. So this last letter of last name, it will be E. But instead of having to, go all the way to 8 or put 9, like I mistakenly said, you would just put -1. See? Way easier. And don't worry, people forget and it's fine. It does happen. You can use the same principle we just used to retrieve the last letter in a string to retrieve the nth to last letter. So, let's say you don't want the last letter of the name. We want the third letter from the last letter of the name. Well, that's easy too. So in here it wants find the second to last. So instead of doing that, we're going to do the last name, right, dot length. But instead of making -1, we're going to -2. So we can get the C, the lowercase c in Lovelace. So instead of E, we're going to get the C. So we're going to subtract it by 2 instead of 1. So see, now we got it. Alright, so you provide a sentence with some missing words like now. So, what's it wanting us to do? 3 missing pieces. An adjective, a verb, adverb, and we add words to choice complete. We can then assign complete. In this challenge, we provide you with a noun, a verb, an adjective, and then the adverb. You need to form a complete sentence using words of your choice along with the words we provide. You'll need to use the string concatenator to build the string. Variables, my noun. And you will then assign the form string to the word bank's variable. So, let's do this. So, the word bank's variable cannot be changed. So we can't just go here and say, okay, that's easy. Word banks is going to equal, whatever. You can't do it. You can't reassign it because it's a const. So you have to change it in here. So we're just going to go with my, and then space. We're going to make the my noun because we did a dog. So my dog is, oh, oops. So space is, now remember, we have to put space right here, and then a space after because we're gonna add another one after. Is, we want to put big here, so my adjective. So my dog is, okay, let's do is very, and this is relatively getting already kind of big. So we can just go ahead. Now I don't want to do a new line because I don't want to put it on so I don't want to put new line. This is getting pretty big, so I want to put myself on new line, but I don't want to use a \n because obviously that's going to make the sentence on the whole new line. We just add this concat, we go to the next one, is very big, put a space there, space, and when seeing the mailman, is very big, and when seeing the mailman, he, now we'll use the verb. He ran very quickly. All right, and then we add the quickly. And then we'll go to the new line. And now we add the period to end the sentence. So, my dog is very big, and when seeing the mailman, he ran very quickly. Oh, oops. My adverb. There we go. See? There you go. So remember, we concat. So we basically made all the right spaces. See, first and last, and had enough to put this in here. To put our noun, put our adjective in here, and we were able to go on new lines, so that way it wasn't all in the same, to save space. So ran, okay. Good. Now, that's done. We've learned about the concatenations, the variables, you know, how to assign them, all that stuff. So we're actually in a decent spot. Doing pretty well. Alright, so now we get to learn a great and powerful thing called arrays. So you can store so many different values in arrays. It's like, okay, I want to store like 5 values into one variable. Well, normally a variable can hold, you know, only one value in it. Well, how do I get them to hold multiple? You know? And I don't want them, you know, merging together because, you know, when you print it out to the screen, it's all going to be either an error or a jumbled mess. So how we do that is we use arrays, and this is how we can store data in there. So they're like separate containers inside one variable. So we'll make a const my array. So modify the new array so that it contains both a string and a number. So here, that's the greatest thing. Since they're in their own containers, you can put whatever you want inside there. So this will be a string, and we separate it with a comma, and we can give it the number 15. See? We now put 2 numbers inside of this one, right? And It'll show us how we can call each one of those out probably in the next one or the one after. But it'll show us how to obtain each of these values. Okay. Now, you can nest more than one. So you can have these, right? You can have this bracket, but you can also put more brackets inside of brackets. So these are called multi-dimensional arrays. So let's say right here, this first value, I want to put another one of these and put bulls and 23. And then, you know, put a comma. So this is our first value here. And then we have our second value, which is we're going to put another bracket in there, and then one's white socks and the other's 45. These are multi-dimensional arrays, and if anyone says it, this is what they're talking about. Create a nested array called myArray. So, see, there's two. There's one position. This would be 0. This the first position would be 1. Remember that they go by 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. It doesn't go by 1. So in this first one, we're actually going to make 2 more. So I'm going to say ball. Oh, oops. Ball. And separate with a comma. 25. Okay. And then we make it here in the second value. Bat. Right? And then we make this 26. So it could be like an ID for, you know, whatever is contained in here. So see, we got it. There's that one, there's this one. Right? Those are multi-dimensional arrays. Now, array indexes are written in the same bracket notation that strings use. So remember how we wanted to get a specific value, right, from the string. Like I wanted this specific letter. I had to use, you know, I had to type the variable, and I had to put that bracket notation and put the specific position that it was in. Well, that's the same thing with arrays. So if I want to get my data, right? So if I wanted to create another const for my data, right? And I want this first one right here. I would go my array and put in the bracket notation 0. Right? Because I want the first position that's in my array, right? I want the 0. So my data is going to give me 50. And I'm going to hit the test, and it's right because I grabbed the first value that was in that array. So, unlike strings, the entries of arrays are mutable and can be changed freely, even if the array was declared with const. Now see, I didn't know that. That one I didn't know. You could actually change the array values even if they're const. Huh. There shouldn't be any spaces between the array name and the square brackets. Like array, okay, yeah. Although JavaScript is able to process this correctly, this may confuse other programmers reading your code. Right. So even though this will run the same array with a space and that, it's going to confuse people like me who are going to look at that and be like, okay, are these supposed to be separated? Or are these together? Like, what's happening? Just something as small as that can make it, you know, confusing. So we want to take my array and we want the position of 0, right? We want to change that 18 and change it to 45. So now, if we call on 0, it is now going to be 45, 64, 99. Anytime we call it or do anything. I'm not really entirely sure why you would just put a array and just make it a const then. Because if you can just change it freely, I don't understand it. Maybe just for, you know, sanity purposes? I don't know. So first way to think of a multidimensional array is an array of arrays. So if you got, I'm sure like most of you are in high school, have graduated high school, and if you guys are middle school, I'm pretty sure maybe you guys have touched on it at some point maybe. But if you know, these are matrices. So you have all these numbers right here, like rows and rows of different, you know, arrays, like containers in here. So, and then, so in this one, like the first, like this would be array 0, has this bracket 1, 2, 3. The 1 position would have 4, 5, 6. 2 position would have this. 3 position would have this whole thing right here, and then inside that one would be this one, and then it would have the 1, 2, and we'll get to, so in order to get to the nested, right, so you have this 3. If we were to do 3, right, we would get this whole line right here, or no, 1, 2, 3, we would get this whole line right here, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. We get this whole thing. But what if we just want this? So we would get array 3, but we would get 0. So we only grab this right here. So see, we have to actually start putting brackets next to brackets to actually start mining down into exactly what we're wanting. And can you assign my array 3? Sure, you can. You can assign, like, you can get rid of that whole thing, and you can just put in your own number, and it would be gone. And we actually just went over. It actually just said this in the last step, that even if they're const, the values in arrays can be changed. New to me, I know, and that's crazy. Because usually if it's constant variable, you can't just change it. But I guess if you're using arrays, that's not the case. You can reassign it. But if you use that to 3 and you use const subarray with array 3, that value, you can't change subarray. So you can change a whole array, but if you get specific values or whatnot and assign it to this right here, you can't change that value again. So you can change the value if you specifically say, hey, this is going to equal this. But when you actually assign a part to, if you assign a part of the array to a new variable, right, then this subarray can never change. That value is stuck that way unless you change it to a let. So anyway, so what if I wanted to go here, right? I wanted the 0 position, but I wanted specifically to grab the 2. I would have to say 0 bracket, and then I make another bracket and go to 1. So that would be 0, and then 0, 1, and then the value would be 2. So let me show you. So what it's wanting is use bracket notation to select an element from my array, right, such that my data is equal to 8. So what it's wanting to do is to get right here, and this right here. it wants me to get to the second position right here. So 0, 1, 2. And it wants me to get right here into this 8. So how would I do that? So first value, we got to find out the high level position that we're wanting to go into, right? So 0, 1, 2. So the first one would be 2 because we want to get to this position. Now, we want to get to this position in this subarray. So this would be 0 and this would be 1. So we would do 1. And now the value is equal to 8. So that's how you do multi-dimensional arrays. So 0, 0, 1, 2 right here, and then 0, 1, and that's 8. That's how you work with these. All right, so go to the next one. So this is 39. So like I said, we'll see how far we get into this. You know, since we're going over all the concepts and we're talking a lot more and that sort of stuff, you know, we're probably not going to hit 100 on this video. We might, you know, break this up into 2 parts. Who knows? But I like to keep it, you know, around maybe like, you know, around 2 hours since we're learning these concepts. 2.5 hours, something around there, instead like a session than having to go, you know, a full session of 4 hours just explaining like every single little bit. Like, I'd like for you guys to be able to digest some of this kind of information, to go ahead and kind of practice, you know, the things that you've already learned, and then come back at our next session and learn some other new things as well. But yeah, that's what I think would be good to do. We'll just have to see where we're kind of at on that. But anyway, so back to this. So my array has this right here. We have the John, we have a multi-dimensional array, and we want to add more things into this array. Well, how am I gonna do that? Well, I'm gonna do this. In order to add more onto an array, we have a function called push, and that means it's going to push it to the end of the array, right? So we're gonna take my array, right? We're gonna take it directly. We're gonna dot push it. See? And inside here is what we're going to add. So we're going to add dog and the value 3. And we got to end the line with a semicolon. So we're going to take this and push it inside here. So I believe that would push it. Yeah. So that would push that onto the inside of here, right? So it push, this is the 0, first, second, and then it's gonna put another, comma here, and then it's gonna insert this dog 3 at the end right here. So that is how you add to the end of the arrays, is by using the push function to push a new value. Okay, and see, even small ones right here, like how array 1 is equal to 1, 2, 3. Well, I want to add 4, so we will call the array dot push, and then we'll put the 4 in here, and then it'll become 1, 2, 3, 4. Just, that's what it is in simple terms. All right. So now, another way to change the data Now, what if we want to remove the last piece of data? Well, we have another function that's called pop, and that will actually pop the last value off of the array. So let's do this. So use the pop function to remove the last item from my array and assign the popped off value to a new variable called remove from my array. So const removed from my array, right? Well, I want that to be my array and dot pop, and I want to take the last one. So we don't have to put anything in here, right? We don't have to put anything inside it. We just declare dot pop and it gets the last value. So this right here now, remove from my array, is going to be equal to this, to cat and comma 2. It's going to be given the array cat2. Okay, and it becomes its own separate array. That's the new value it's going to grab. So that's how you can pop it. You can get the last value off an array. So now, what if you're saying, okay, I don't want the last one. I want the very first value. So how do I get the very first value? Well, that's easy. So we're going to do remove. We're going to add another. So const removed from my array, right? And so we're going to do my array, but instead of popping, we're going to actually shift. So the shift function will actually shift off the first value of an array. So now this removed from my array is going to have the value John 23. It's going to have, this array in here and become its own array. So shift and pop. Pop's going to take off the end. Shift's going to take off the front. We'll run that. That's good. All right. So not only can you shift elements off the beginning of the array, you can also unshift elements to the beginning of the array. So let's just say, okay, I want to take this off, right? See how it's a shift, right? Now, unshift works exactly like push, but instead of pushing it to the end of the array, it takes it and places it at the beginning of the array. So we want to add. So what do we want to do? We want to add Paul35 to the beginning of my array. All right. So let's do my array dot unshift and then put the value we want in here. We want Paul. Oh, gotta be formal. Paul and 35. See? So we're going to take this and we're going to push it to the beginning of this array right here, right? So now when we unshift it, it's going to be Paul 35, John 23, and then dog 3. See? Remember how we pushed that to the end? That dog 3? Full circle. All right. So here we go. So we're going to, I guess, do this in practice. So create a shopping list in the variable myList. All right. The list should be a multi-dimensional array containing several subarrays. The first element in each subarray should contain a string with the name of the item. The second element should be a number representing the quantity, right? There should be at least 5 subarrays in this list. Okay, so let's make this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So technically it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're going by positioning. But now we're gonna put one here. So I'm just setting these up right now. Right? I'm making each of the strings, and I'm putting a comma for the second variable. So, or the second value. So there. Oh. So let's say this. Cheese. I want 50 quantities of cheese in my cart. Right? Let's say I really like Skittles. And I want Skittles. But let's put Skittle packs. I want 100 Skittle packs. It's not great, but this is what I want. So we're gonna put that in there. And then, heck with it. Cats. I want, or cat. I want now look, I'm not wanting to turn to like a crazy cat person, but like, you know what? Screw it. It's my shopping list. 80. We're gonna put 80 in there. 80 cats with my Skittle packs and my cheese. And we can add some we're gonna need collars for this. So I'm gonna need about 350. No, I'm gonna need about 80 collars. And obviously there's a lot of things I could add on top of this, but like, let's just pretend, you know, I just already have everything I need. Apple, banana, orange, 10, 23. Ah, man, that's too basic. I gotta go higher than that. I'll take one of your opinions. Let's go with banana. So we got banana, and let's just have 200 bananas, just because we want to. There we go. Ta-da! That's my shopping list. Man, and I'm sure there's gonna be like a couple of maybe happy or pissed off people when I come back home, but we'll see. So run that, and we got it. So in JavaScript, we can divide up our code into reusable parts called functions. All right, well, I guess I'm not doing anything with that list that we made. Well, there goes that fun. So we can make our so let's say we want to take, you know, a bunch of things, and we make a whole bunch of code, and then we find out, okay, we have to write this same code over and over and over again. That's going to get so annoying, right? I know a lot of people hate being repetitive. So instead of doing that, we have these things called functions, where we can just keep calling them, and it does the same exact things. We can also place things into functions and get something out of it, like that we want. So, but you know, we'll get to that when we can. So in order to create the function, we have to create a function called reusable functions. So we'll declare it like this: function, right? We gotta start off with function, and then reusable function, right? And we want it to print the string hi world, and then we want to call the function. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do a console.log, because we want to send this out to the console, right? We want to say, well, hi world, here I am, right? And you know, I just want to keep saying this. So I can just put in reusable function, right? And that's it. And I can save it, and see at the bottom here, oh, you can't see it. Well, that's unfortunate. Hold on a minute. Let me just move myself. Probably better to keep me right here so you guys can just see the outputs and stuff. Maybe. Oh, I see this being kind of difficult at some point. Maybe. Oh boy. So where do I want to put this so you guys can clearly see what I'm doing? But you know what? We got it. We got it. So we'll just keep it there. So that way you can see at the bottom. So see at the bottom here. Oh. Yeah. We got it. So let's okay. Duh. I was sitting here and I was thinking, but don't have to think too hard. Anyway, so now you can see the hi world down here. So if we want to keep doing that, we can put it like this, and you can call this as many times as you want. See? We can just keep throwing this in here. See? And it can make it as many times as you want without having to individually keep writing out the same things of code. And if you have lines upon lines upon lines of code and you just do not want to keep writing it out, that's where it will go. So you can do this with tons of different things, and it will show you probably here soon, but that's the way that's going to work. So remember how I said that you could put things into it and you can get things out of it? Well, this is how you're going to do it. These are the things that are going to be called parameters. The parameters are going to be the things that we're going to put into it, and it's going to give us something back. So it's going to create a function called function with arguments. So these are the parameters, and then the things that are put into a function are called arguments. So we put these into a function. These are called arguments, but are variables that act as placeholders. So the parameters are variables that act as placeholders for the values. Okay, so when we call it, these are arguments. So the actual values that are passed into input into the function are called arguments. Okay, so we'll do this. The function with args, right? Function with arguments. So two arguments inputs their sum to the dev console. So call the function with two numbers as arguments. All right, so we have to declare it. So it has to be a function first, right? So function with args, right? Arguments. Now, I want to add two things together, right? Now, this would be like our add two numbers function, right? So our first one is going to be num1 and num2, right? And what we're wanting to do with this is console.log. We want to add, right, num1 plus num2, right? Right? So we're going to take that. Now, when I call this, I can put whatever I wanted in there, and it's going to just add these, right? So if I do function with args, right, I'm going to do, see how it says it's not defined, like at the bottom here? That means I haven't put anything in it yet. It can't give me what I want because I don't have enough to satisfy this requirement. This right here, see the nan? It's not a number. It can't give me anything. And that references back a few lessons. But let's say we got num1, num2. So our first number is going to be 5, right? We'll just put 5 and let's put 10. See? What it's going to do is it's going to take this 5 and 10, and inside here it's going to add it together, and it's going to call this 15. See? That is the glorious thing of functions. And we can do this with anything we want to. So functions with args, we can do this with 250. And I want to add it to 5,324. right? It'll automatically total that up for me as 5,574. So see, you can do so many great things by just using functions and using parameters and, providing arguments. And this right here is the biggest thing that you're going to learn. Like, arguments are or I should say functions are one of the biggest things to programming. And you're going to have tons and tons and tons and tons of different functions. And all the things that we've learned so far combines to make these functions do the things that they do. All right. So if we want, so we've done this. Clearly, we have overly achieved what we needed, right? So we can pass values into a function with arguments. You can use a return statement to send a value back out of a function, right? So answer has a value of 8. It's because if we just add right here, right, that plus 3. So we're going to take this, right? We're going to take this number, and it's automatically going to return to us the number plus 3. And then we can make a new variable and equal to this, right? To this function, but then we're going to put a 5. So 5 plus 3 is going to be 8. So the answer here is going to be equal to 8. Now I'll show that. So create a function called times 5. So function times 5, right? So now in here, we're going to take a for a number, right? Number to multiply. And now we're going to return the value back to us, right? We're not going to just put it out to the console. We're just going to return this value. Now, return the number, but we're going to times it by 5. See? So no matter what we put in there, it's going to multiply it by 5. And now it wants it wants us to return the new value. So times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25, right? So you can call it here and it's going to return it. You can also assign it a variable and it'll do it that way as well. So let's try and see if I can, because I'm sure this is blocking some stuff. So let's see how this works if I push this over a little bit. There we go. So let's try to go back. Oh man, this is a bad position. Because that's just going to block all our answer output. Whack. Okay, maybe if I move this. If I just move myself over here, right? And just cover all the other irrelevant stuff. That's irrelevant, right? You don't need to see that. Actually, if I put the chat over here, maybe. That might work? Question mark? Yeah, nah, you don't need to. It wouldn't be that bad. We'll just go ahead and save it like that. So this should be hopefully okay. So I think that should be okay. That should be fine. So now we have scopes. Now we have things with global variables, and there are things that can go inside the global variables, that can go inside functions, and things that cannot go inside functions. So, which variables which are declared without let or const keywords are automatically created in the global scope. this can be creating unintended consequences elsewhere in your code or when running a function again. So you should always declare your variables with letter const. So using letter const, declare a global variable named myGlobal. So we'll do a let and myGlobal, right? Outside of any function. Initialize it with a value of 10. So we'll put 10, right? So now myGlobal is equal to 10. Inside function function1, assign 5 to oops global, right? So oops global equals 5, right? Okay, without using the var letter or var let or const keywords. So here we go. So you can see, right, that myGlobal right here, right, when it is called with myGlobal right here outside, it takes this value, right, and puts it in 10. It's not in a function, you know, it's outside the scope of this. Now, this is taken and placed in this function, right? And that's how we're able to get myGlobal as 10. Now, this one right here is inside, let's say, another container. Like, it's placed in its own container, right? But, so if we put a let or constant, it's going to remain in this container, right? Inside here. It won't go, it can't be accessed anywhere else, right? And if we reassign the let to myGlobal equals like 5, it may work in this function, but anywhere outside is still going to be 10. And that's what the importance of scope is. So, as you can see, when we didn't put a var, a let, or a char or anything like that, it automatically became a global variable. Which is why, even though it is in this function, this first function, it can still be grabbed by this second function. Unintended. So that's why, like, if you want to make it myGlobal let variable inside here and give it a new thing and yada yada yada, that's fine. But if you make an another a global variable in here and then a global variable out here, it's just going to change the value of these, and it's just going to be everywhere. So there are certain times where maybe global variables might be good if it's going to be used throughout the whole entire thing and it's going to be a constant dynamically changed value. But generally you want to make sure, you want to stick to using lets or consts if you can, so that way one, it's best practice and it literally will save you from breaking things later. But it reduces a lot, like I said, a lot of problems. So we've done this for this step. So that's how you have global variables. We've talked about, in just this alone, we've talked about scope and how variables work within these. So essentially what you got right here in this whole entire thing is one, let's say, one giant compact cube, right? Like a container, like a Tupperware container. And then this function is another tiny Tupperware container over here. And then this function is another tiny Tupperware container. So outside in this big one that contains the two Tupperware containers inside of it, you have this variable that each one of them that can use, right? Which is that myGlobal. But the one sitting outside of these two containers, how would I demonstrate this actually? So I actually wish I had containers. Anyway, this would be easier to demonstrate. But you gotta think Okay, so imagine putting a global variable inside of, one of those smaller containers. Well, now that can be accessible and managed and everywhere throughout the whole everything that's inside everything that's inside, the giant container. So everyone can have access to it. And some things, sometimes you just don't want that. And sometimes you want to, have it reassigned here. Well, if that's, let's say this variable somewhere else is declared 25, right? And then you're like, hey, I want to assign this to 50, but then you wanted to like add like another number or something like that to this when it was 25. Well, you're not. It's going to be 75 because that value is still going to be 50 globally. So that's where, depending on where it's executed. So that's why they're saying, okay, you want to have a let, so that way, you can reassign it wherever you want it to be, So that's kind of that is what we define, that is defined to programmers as scope, the scope of the project. And like basically, keeping their containers, all the variables inside there, that are declared and everything inside there, leaving as it is inside there and leaving everything outside of that box alone, so it doesn't cause other things issues. All right, so we have 46. So variables which are declared with a function as well as the function parameters have a local scope. That means they're only visible within that function, right? So right here, this is like what we were just describing. So if we tried, so we defined this variable called loc, LOC, for a local scope, and it's called foo, right? We can actually call it here and it'll print. But if we call my test, it's going to actually bring it, it's going to print off foo right here, see? But if we try to grab this variable outside of that function, since it's declared a const and it's a local variable inside the scope, it can't be accessed outside of that container. So this is going to just be an error because it'll just say it doesn't exist. So the editor has 2 console logs to help you see what's happening. Check the console as you code to see how it changes. Declare a local variable myvar inside my local scope. Okay, see. So we will declare the local variable const myvar, right? And this can be equal to 25, right? Variable's not defined. So we put this right here, and it'll say, okay, my local scope. Well, inside my local scope, see, this is going off to the console, inside my local scope, and then it puts my variable, right? And then when we call it, that's why it's here. But when we try to just say, okay, I'm just going to call log and then put outside my local scope, I'm just going to put the my var and hope to get the same result. That's not what's going to happen. It's going to say, well, where is it? It's not here. That's because it's in its own container, and only by calling that function, you're going to actually see it. So there we go. So I think we're going to get to 50, maybe 1 or 2 after, just for the fact that wherever the lesson kind of actually stops at for that component, and we'll pick up the next time. But I think, getting to 50 would be a good stopping point, since we're already like in about, 2 hours. And then we can, we can start part 2 on this, in a couple more days, because by the time this stream would probably get over, it'd be about, 4.5 hours. And I mean, in a classroom setting, you're never going to sit there for, 4.5 hours. So it's good to take what we learned on here for right now. And, once we hit 50, and kind of just play with it. Like, make like your own, like maybe tiny programs, maybe find an editor online and see how you can mess around with it and see what things you can do by just, learning what you already have. And then when we pick up later, you'll understand even more concepts. So, is it possible to have a local and global variables with the same name? When you do this, the local variables take precedence over the global variable. So, right here, this is the global. So, right here, remember, this is inside the container, so anything in the functions will grab it. Well, if you want to add inside here some variable, instead it says hat, we want it to be head. And we're going to create a new variable, but with the same name. It's going to say, oh, well, this is head because in this function, this is what takes place over everything else outside of it. And then we're going to return that. So the function myFun, will return the string head because the local version of the variable is present. So add a local variable to my outfit. Function to override the value of outerwear. So const outerwear. So see how it's already called outside. It says t-shirt. Well, in here it wants us to say sweater. So now it's going to return sweater, even though outside of here it says t-shirt. And how we can check that, we can actually do this as well. We can do console. Oh. Well, hold on. We wouldn't do that. We would do console.log, and then we will take my outfit function. See, it shows sweater. So even though it says t-shirt, it takes the function. Alright. So a function can include the return statement, but it does not have to. In the case that the function does not have a return statement, when you call it, the function processes the inner code, but the return value is undefined. So you have add 3, function add 3. It's going to just say, well, there's nothing in here. So create a function, add 5 without any arguments. This function adds 5 to the sum variable, but its return value is undefined, right? So basically, these functions are not meant to be called, right? These are only meant to be used like calculations and that sort of stuff to be implemented in, let's say, other functions. So like this is just like, okay, I want to add 3, add 5, yada yada. So function add 5 with nothing, and then we don't want to return anything. So we're just going to have a sum plus equals to 5, right? So we're going to, there's nothing in here. It's just going to add this sum to 5. But it's undefined. Like there's nothing in there. We're just doing calculations. Well, it's not going to return anything, so the function will change the global sum, but its return value is undefined, right? Well, if we want it to return or whatnot, we would have to do it that way. Because it won't return anything. So what if we did no. Yeah, so that actually doesn't yeah, that won't supply anything. You want to do that? So if you do the console.log sum under add 5, what's going to happen is it's actually going to, it shouldn't change that. So see, because it's in the global, it's different. Okay. Yeah. Well. So, here you go. Duh. That says it right there. The function will change the global sum variable, but the return value of the function is undefined. So if you try to actually do this, where you would try to do this, right? It would be undefined. But if you just do this and then you call it, then it would change the global. Thanks, man. Yeah. I guess I drew a blank there. I should have known that. Oh well. I mean, can't remember everything. But yeah. So if you try calling the thing itself, it doesn't do anything. But if you just do the add 5, whatever's changing out here will do it to here. Which is why, like, if you put this inside of another function, no, that wouldn't matter, because it wouldn't be it's not returning anything, it's just changing a value. Well, yeah, if you add another 3, it's going to be 11, because it's adding on to the global right here. So this function right here is changing the global variable out here, because it's taking this and adding the sum by 5. So now you have 3 plus 3 plus 5, and that's how, and now you were adding the sum. Right. I knew that. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Man. Yeah. So if you So if you do the console log and you add the 5 in here, yeah, it's still undefined. And it don't matter, because if you're putting something in here, it doesn't accept a parameter. Like, it doesn't accept an argument because you haven't defined a parameter. Now, if you put my number here and then you put my number here, then it probably would. Like, see, like if I were to do like add 5 with my num and then add my num plus there. See, you can add this, so my num, you're adding the 5, right? And then it would be plus sum. So you actually have to create a parameter in order for that to happen, or else it's not going to do anything. Yeah. So in that, you're still right, exactly. I was If not, it's always going to be undefined. You're just manipulating the global. Yeah, exactly. You'd be doing return plus 5. So if you did function add 5 sum and then you did return sum plus 5, you'd have to enter add 5 5 and then it would be 10. Yeah. But this is good though, because this actually shows how this is the difference between having a return function return in here and not having a return. So like, I appreciate, you actually throwing it out here and, contributing, because that makes a big difference. So, anyway, let's go ahead and move on from this. So, at 5. Right. So now, assignment with the return value. If you recall from our discussion about storing values with an assignment operator, everything to the right of the assigned result before the value is assigned. This means we can take the value and assign it to a variable. Right. So we're going to call the process right here, right? Call the process arg function. So the assignment 7, assign return value to the variable process. So yeah, so processed, right? So process is going to be assigned to the value process arg, and then we're going to put a number in here. So whatever number we put in here, which will be 7, right? It's going to take that 7 and it's going to return it right here. So 7 plus 3, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So the process will equal 2. So when we call it log, it's 2. See? So yeah, you can assign an end function to a variable. All right. So, okay. So we've hit about 2.5 hours. I think we're going to cut it at this. So that's 50%. So we're halfway through all the basics right now. So the next time we meet, we'll get through the rest of it and meet to 100. Actually, I think there's 113. So we'll have, the next session we'll do 53. We'll do 53 more steps. But I think 2.5 hours is pretty good. It's getting near kind of 12 o'clock where I live, so we'll have to probably postpone this. But yeah, I hope you guys kind of learned a lot of cool new stuff. I've I'm so glad for the community, like you guys coming out and, you know, helping me like kind of remember, you know, the scopes and or the return of the difference of between having a return or not having a return for the functions, because that, you know, jogged my memory for how those actually work. But yeah, 5 a.m. that's dedication. Are you just up for before work, or? I know you're definitely probably in a different country. Yeah, you can do a return 0. Like in some, you can do like return 0 or 2. Yeah. And it should stop it. It just returns nothing. So like if this is true, then do this, else do nothing. But we haven't gotten to if and else statements, so we'll go more into that later. But yeah, I think thanks Saga for, you know, coming out and, you know, interacting. I really appreciate it, and along with everyone else that came in here. I know there was a lot of people that actually came through here and for this stream this time, and I hope you all were able to learn some additional things like I have. So I don't know exactly where we actually pick up after this, so we'll see where it comes out to for part 2. And yeah, I'll see you guys here probably in a couple days. Let you guys digest all of it. Depending how I'm feeling, I mean, I could even try for tomorrow, like just to finish it up, but I think it'd be good just to have a couple of days to you know, for you guys to practice and to kind of think on it, like digest it a bit, and then we'll come back to it. So trying to make it at least every other day for a stream, so you guys can have, you know, gives me kind of a good time to kind of gather and, you know, take a bit of a break with working and all that, and, you know, kind of come in here, you know, a bit energized and fresh. But yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate the follow, and I hope to see you the next time that we do this, if you're available. I know 5 a.m. is you know, it's quite a lot. It'd be, when we first started this, like, it had to have been 3 a.m. your time, so the next time we start this could be, you know, 3 a.m. But yeah, if you know, my YouTube channel is always available, so for anyone that's outside the country or on a completely different time zone, more than welcome to check out the YouTube channel and review previous lessons if you want to, or if you want to follow along and catch up, you know, to get your other certs. We just earned that responsive design cert the last time in the last lesson that we did, or last session that we had, study session. And yeah, so if you guys want to do that, you're more than welcome. You guys can also catch the streams there if you miss it. You can also look on my Twitch channel and you can view the latest videos there if you miss it. Granted, you won't be able to ask questions immediately, but if you do have any other additional questions, I do have a Discord, that Discord page for our area. Let's see if I can throw that in the chat real quick for you guys, like a fresh new link for anyone that wants to, you know, just kind of stop by, anyone that wants to share their work, or, you know, wants to, like I said, share some questions or anything like that. Let's see here. So I'll take this, copy this link for you guys, and I'll put this in my YouTube video as well for anyone that wants to. But yeah, there's the Discord page. You guys are more than welcome to join. Alright, so I will see all of you guys in a couple days. Alright, you guys all have a good night. Thank you.